Hi, my name is Douglas Hall. I'm back on my YouTube channel again, or my contact service called Chosan Night. I'm doing a particularly special mukbang video. This is, in a way, memorial mukbang in honor of my late father, um, Hall Hee, who passed away around this time 1 year ago. He suddenly passed away on May 19th, 2021. So I would like to, hopefully talk about him so that way hopefully people can know about him posthumously. So I will be eating one of my dad's favorite Korean Chinese dish, jjamppong. Oh, spilled a bit. Okay, I'll take care of that bit. Apparent of out of how most people they would get sick of eating their favorite food eventually, but this is the one thing my dad will never get sick of eating. So let's dig in. Oh, pickle pa. So like I said, my father in English is Hee Huh, but Korean/Asian they do last name first. So Hall Hee. My his father, slash my grandfather, his name was Hall Chon Suk. His mother, or my grandmother, her name was Yi Bu Sun. He was born in South Korea. He prefers his lunar calendar birthday, which works differently. And another story with that is that my grandfather kind of forgot when his birthday was, at least the day he was born. So he actually registered my father the day they went in to register him. So the lunar calendar it changes every year. The birthday changes every year, but so it's tentatively around May 5th, 1963. Mm. Mm. Oh, that's so good. Mm. I got this just today, actually, just several hours ago, a couple hours ago, from a Korean Chinese restaurant on Lawrence Avenue in Chicago. It's called Peking. It is so good. Like, it is a drive for me and my family to get there, but it is so worth it. It is on the spicier side, but I mean, Asians do have a little, like, are kind of used to spice, but hopefully the spice hasn't get to me yet, but I can already see why my father loved this dish so much. You guys want to get a closer look at it? So the elementary school he went to was Ko Lee, I think. The junior high he went to was Seoul Samyok. Please forgive me for slurping with my manners, but if many of you don't know, in Asian culture, it's actually a compliment if you slurp food, particularly with noodles in it. And at the same time, the high school that my dad went to is also the same one that he went to for junior high, so Seoul Samyuk. So it functioned as both, for middle school and high school as well. It may be separate, but they're also within the school campus, according to the information that my mother told me. He graduated from Seoul Samyuk in 1982. Then he went to Samkyungkwang for college or university. I only had a small taste of this whenever my family and I go to Peking, because whenever we order like fried rice, they come with this, but just the soup, not the noodles, but just the soup in a small complimentary thing. Kind of like how if you're going to like Olive Garden, for example, and then you get like a soup or a salad, as complimentary on top of whatever meal you're gonna get. So. Around the same time when my father was in college, as I don't know, many of you know, but I know that in South Korea there is a mandatory military service or conscription. So he enlisted. He served from 1984 to 1986. It was the 8th Division of O2Ki. I do remember he was in the medical division, because whenever my brothers and I, or my mom, or himself have some sort of medical issue, like a really big cut or something, then he would, in a way, kind of examine us and see like, oh, you don't need to go to the doctor. Like, even though how serious it may look, because he does know a thing or two. He may not be a certified medical profession, but he does know a thing or two, though. Or he knew a thing or two. There's one thing my father always loved the most. He always loved food. I don't know if you guys can see this, but that is squid, and I love this stuff. So shortly after the military service, after he was discharged, shortly after that, that's when he met my mother. Shin Kim or Kim Shin, however you want to think about it, last name first or last. And then so my mom had already immigrated here to the States, and she already became a naturalized U.S. citizen. So when my dad married her, he had a green card and was brought over here after they got married. So for his first job, he worked at a McDonald's, and I actually know which McDonald's is that. Sometimes we pass by it. If we ever go by it, especially if I visit my friend's house. It's all the way in Darien on 75th Street in Illinois. He worked with his, at the time he thought was his best friend, who married my aunt, but later divorced, so my ex-uncle. His English wasn't very good when he arrived to the States, but his English did gradually improve eventually, especially by the end of his life. Although you could still, if you were ever to speak with him, there was a little struggle or an accent. He didn't have that much money when he immigrated to the States with my mother, and she was already here when she was a kid. He eventually got a job at dental technician, particularly as a ceramist, where it's the final process where the teeth looks like the crowns actually look like the teeth on the outside. I'm kind of having a hard time talking about my dad while eating this at the same time, but I'll get through with it. He did work at several dental studios throughout his life. especially until his last place of employment, where he actually found true happiness at his work or his job or his workplace, which was Vitality Studios. I forgot where exactly they are in Illinois, but they're about an hour drive away from my family's place here in Aurora. But he really loved working at that place, and when he passed away, many of his co-workers and the dental studios owners, they were so shocked because it was a huge, devastating loss for them, not just emotionally, but from an economical standpoint. This is how good my father was. Let's say the average ceramist can do 8 to 12. My dad could have done 20 to 24 in the same amount of time, or in an 8-hour workday. We heard from Vitality Studios that they were looking to replace him, but they had to hire at least 3 people just to replace my father. He, like his father or my grandfather, was actually a highly efficient man. And it's a trait that myself and my 2 brothers inherited from my father and grandfather. And the story is that, like I said, good example is how my dad can do dental, crowns very quickly compared to others in his specific field. Another similar story is how during the Japanese occupation of Korea, my grandfather, this is how good he was. He could disassemble a train steam engine and put it back together and get it working again faster than anyone could. Actually, I think my father could do 30 dental crowns in one day at his peak. Prior, when he passed away, it was closer to 20, 24. Another thing about my father is, particularly with his interest, he loved history, especially our ancestral homeland of Korea. My father and I both love studying Korea's Joseon dynasty, although there are a few key differences between me and him. I like studying late Joseon dynasty and the Korean Empire with Emperor Gojeong. My father doesn't like that particular history of Korea, which I kind of understand because it led to the Japanese annexation and the colonial rule of Korea. So he likes more early to mid Joseon dynasty or the Goryeo dynasty. Like I said, he really loved the homeland so much. He doesn't get into politics too much unless it's about Korea. I do remember that he watched the various inter-Korean summits, and of course the summits between former President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. He did hope to visit North Korea one day if and when the borders open up again, because he still has family who are still there, because he did tell me and my brothers that his father and his uncle, which would make him my granduncle, they were the only ones who fled the north during the war. He did have at least some interest in Western history, particularly with the European royals. When I first talked to him about the discovery of Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany's letter to Emperor Gojeong in 1902, he already knew about it, and then he and I talked about a little bit about the Kaiser's relationship with Emperor Gojeong, and then he told me this is how Koreans pronounce Wilhelm in Korean. Pillium, not Wilhelm, or which is William in German, but we call it Pillium. He is a firm believer of the territory known as Kangdo in Manchuria that should be part of Korea. If those of you who don't know, the Kangdo dispute is when after Japan defeated Russia in the Russo-Japanese War and it was getting closer and closer to the annexation. In 1909, the year before the annexation, Japan, as acting as the protectorate of Korea, succeeded the disputed territory Kangdo to China, or at the time the Qing dynasty, in exchange for railroad concessions. Even though the present-day governments, both Koreas, no longer recognize the Korean claim to Kangdo, but yet there are still some in both Koreas that do, and my father was among those who did. I can really, like I said, I know I keep talking about it, but I really can see why my father loved this. And how did my father and mother met? They met through my ex-uncle when they were still friends, and then when he was married to my mom's sister, or my aunt, or in Korean, my imo. I think to the best of my memory, the story is that when my mom was looking through photos of my aunt's wedding, she noticed my dad's like, ooh, like he's good looking, like, or cute or whatever, and then they introduced to. That's how I got introduced to each other. He proposed to my mother only after 3 weeks after they started dating, only 3 weeks. And he didn't do like the typical tradition, hiding something in the cake, or just like doing some sort of entourage or whatever, like will you marry me? This is how my dad proposed to my mother. Do you want to have an engagement party? So my father married my mother on July 17th, 1989. They had me roughly 1 year later because I was born on July 3rd, 1989. So for me and my brothers, and even my parents, it was very easy to count how many years my parents were married. All they had to do is just add 1 year to how old I am. Definitely on the little spicier side, but I think I can handle it, but I'm not sure how anybody else would. My gosh. I highly, highly recommend Peking. If anyone ever gets a chance to be on Lawrence Avenue in Chicago, Illinois, go to Peking. It is so good. Their portion, you get a lot of portion for very little money. Let's say, hypothetically, an average Chinese takeout restaurant, you get this much for $12. Peking gives you this much for the same price. Not exact comparison, but close enough, in my opinion. My dad did, he loved sports very much. That was one of his interests. I'm not a sports person, nor is one of my brothers, but my youngest brother, he did sports, especially football, back in high school, when we went to Naperville Central High School. That's when my dad and my brother would get along. There a few times I did connect with my dad over sports, particularly with the World Cup, but of course we were rooting for Korea. And of course the Olympics, but of course we're rooting for Korea. Like how he and I and the family, we rooted for when Kim Yeon won the single ladies figure skating for Korea and Vancouver, I think back in 2008. My father wasn't much of a movies or TV kind of person, but there were a few movies that he did enjoy. Two of them are actually from the Indiana Jones franchise. He loved the Temple of Doom and the Last Crusade. In fact, we would kind of reenact scenes from like the Temple of Doom when we were growing up. I did correct him something about the Last Crusade. He thought when Sean Connery was telling Indiana Jones or Harrison Ford to give up the Holy Grail, we all know Sean Connery says, "Indiana, let it go." This is how my father thought and still thought it was till the day he passed away. Indy, let it go. Some of the other stuff he loved was like, Mrs. Doubtfire, Kung Fu Panda. He did love, to this day, it was still his favorite celebrity crush, Linda Carter from Wonder Woman. He did like the Bionic Woman, the $6 Million Man. He liked Astro Boy growing up. Popeyes, for example. There was one TV show. My dad and my brother and I grew up, and we kind of got a little close with it when we were watching it. Koreans call it Klangjo, but it's actually a Japanese anime called Magic King Grand Sword. So my dad would always get like, here's a few one. So here, take it and go rent a tape of Grand Sword. Back when we lived in Korea for one year. He also loved family history. My brother and I will unfortunately have to learn it on our own without him. But my father knew quite a bit of our ancestors' records. Kind of like how Disney's Mulan, you see all those ancestor stone tablets, similar like that. Korea has something like that too. So my dad was able to study all the ancestor stuff. He told us like how there was a secretary to the Minister of War during Chosun times, how one was actually a bodyguard for the Korean prince was taken prisoner to Manchuria after the Qing invasion of Chosun. So my family on both sides were nobility descent, or as Koreans call it, yangbang. I unfortunately don't like to talk about the end of my father's life, and granted, who does? Who doesn't want to remember a day that they don't want to remember, or very tragic? No one knew until the day he passed away, except for a few. Among my family, just my mom, my brothers, and I don't know about my brothers, but I only told my best friends about it. But he was unfortunately battling with liver cirrhosis caused by hepatitis B for the past 2 years. That's when the symptoms first appear, or back in 2019, well, just before the COVID-19 pandemic began. It was likely inherited from his mother or my grandmother, since his younger brother had it and passed away years before my dad did. It was managed about a month ago before he passed away. What happened a month ago? He was changing a flat tire on his way back from work when he avoided a car. And obviously it did something serious to him because he was suffering the same symptoms that he was experiencing from 2 years ago. I don't want to say too much, but let's just say his stomach exploded as if he was pregnant. So they took the fluids out, but obviously something was going on, and we suspected something was up because he didn't look that good in the last couple weeks of his life. He suddenly passed away, like I said, on May 19th, 2021. He woke up starting the day as he normally would, like for the last 2 years of his life. He had breakfast, talked with my mom for a little bit before going to the bathroom and getting ready for work. He was on the toilet when all of a sudden he collapsed, and my brother and my mom overheard that. He was unresponsive. My brother started administering CPR as my mom called 911 before she started calling me and my other brother in our bedrooms. We were still asleep at the time, which that was our normal routine. I was sleeping in. I was like doing some online classes for IT online. When the paramedics arrived, they took over to help him revive him successfully when they took him to the hospital. I arrived with my mother at the hospital, and we were in a waiting room, and that's when he learned he suffered a cardiac arrest while they were asking us questions about his conditions, about anything else. So he suffered cardiac arrest at home, and then while the doctor was talking to us and explaining to us, he had another one. So that is what unfortunately did it for him. The doctors weren't able to revive him. The doctors aren't 100% sure what happened to him. We all had a guess what happened, but at the end of the day, it was only a guess, and it doesn't change what happened. My family and I, we took care of him in regards with his wishes prior to his passing. My family and I are still struggling with his passing, which is still a relatively recent event because it was just only roughly a year ago. We're struggling among many things, like financially, because he was the main breadwinner of the family. But if there's one good thing, I don't want to say it's a good thing, but one silver lining that came out of this is something my parents worry, especially with my dad with his brothers. Me and my brothers were coming together more now than ever. Like I said, that's no silver lining. I never meant that to be a good thing. It's not a good thing. I, however, did took comfort because he knew I was seeing a girl at the time, which made him happy. All my family and I can do now is live our life to the fullest. And this is partially why I try to keep returning to the YouTube scene, along with just streaming service in general, along with my animation, my game development skills and career. That's something I promised to him at the funeral service, along with other things like visiting North Korea when that's possible and finding our family there. And like I said, this video is in honor of my father. I'm starting to think about my dad a little bit. Cannot be helped, of course. 아빠, 대한민국 만세. Which basically means Korea, rules or stuff like that. I still have an active GoFundMe page for my late father, so if you want to donate something for my family, for what we're going through, I would really appreciate that. But at the end of the day, there's no pressure. It's just there. I will add a video of my dad holding our family dog who passed away 3 years before he passed away. our dog name was Penguin or Lucky in Korean. So that way you guys get at least know what he looked like, and when he was healthy at that age, and know what he sounded like. Oh. I'm also dehydrated too. That was so good. There's still a little bit so I'm gonna finish it later, but it is so worth it. I would like to say thank you for watching this video, and I hope to make more soon. I'm probably gonna do more mukbangs talking about various stuff, since I think mukbangs might be the more better, attractive of the audience. So I hope you guys like it, and I hope to see you guys soon.
다시 춤춰줘 봐. 자기가 다시 춤춰줘 봐.
And then for you, Richard, I mean, just being Prince Charming, I mean, you've already played sort of king. We know you from Game of Thrones. You've already kind of carried that weight. So were you like, oh, this is an easy transition for me. I've already got this.
No, it wasn't easy. No, it's because I was like, everyone's got an idea of who the prince is, so I just kind of was a way of